All right, we are here live for the International Women's Day Self-Care Seminar with Homaira Kabir. So excited to see you all. We're going to let people come in for a few minutes and then we'll get started shortly.
Brittany, do I have access to my chat box?
You should. Let's see here.
Yes, I do. I do. Hello, everyone. It would be so nice if you can introduce yourselves in the chat box. Tell us what you're looking to walk away with from this webinar. Also, perhaps what you're struggling with, why you decided to join us.
Yeah, this is a lovely time to spend on a Saturday with like-minded folks, just trying to find ways to honor your truest self. So please feel free to introduce yourselves. All right. So it seems that we've got a slowdown of folks joining in. So I think we can get started. My name is Brene Brown. I am a marketing manager here at Sourcebooks. Oh, it looks like the chat was disabled. Let me go ahead and fix that. There we go. Should be fixed for everyone.
I thought it was a bit too silent.
Yeah, I was like, why isn't anyone participating? I'm so sad. Yeah, so chat should be fixed, y'all. So sorry about that. Let's see here. All right, we should be good for you guys to chat. There we go. We've got some folks chatting here. All right. So again, I'm Brene Brown. I'm a marketing manager of adult nonfiction here at Sourcebooks, and I am so pleased today to present Homaira Kabir, who is the author of the forthcoming title, Goodbye Perfect: How to Stop Pleasing, Proving, and Pushing for Others and Live for Yourself. It's a wonderful title on how to honor your truest self and to build what Homaira calls optimal confidence. And I'm very happy to be able to present her to you today for her self-care webinar. And I'll let you go ahead and get started.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone, for being here. Thank you. Thank you, Alicia, Susan. Hi. Thank you, Carolyn, Brenda, and all of you, Michelle, all of you for joining us on this Saturday morning, afternoon, evening, whatever it is for you, whichever part of the world you're joining us from, to talk about this very important concept, self-care. What is it? How do we do it in a way that is life-sustaining, that is nurturing, that allows us as women, especially because we have all these different roles, responsibilities, we have these aspirations, we have this paradox, this wonderful paradox that we are these different interests. And at the center of it all is the self. It is us. And how do we take care of this self so that we can be there for all of these different aspects of ourselves and show up fully? And how do we do it again in a way that nurtures us and allows us to be there in vitality, feeling alive? And the reason we named this webinar Redefining Self-Care is that the ways that we are doing are not really that nurturing. If you think about it, the number blows my mind away. It's hard to wrap my head around it, thinking that globally, the self-care industry is worth $1.5 trillion. If you think about it, $1.5 trillion. And still, it is not meeting our needs. If you think about it, women are feeling more stressed, more burnt out, more empty, more depressed, more hopeless than ever before. Obviously, it's not meeting us where we are. And so what are we going to do to take care of ourselves in a way that we can be there and live fully and experience this life to its maximum? And so thank you again for joining us, and let us begin. And I will turn on my slides. I'll turn on my slides, and as I do so, why don't all of you take a deep breath in, center yourselves, give yourselves fully to the next hour. Maybe you may want to just shake out all the tension you're carrying, all the different noise that you're carrying in your heads, all the, we just bring so much with us everywhere we go. So just shake it all out so that we can be here fully in this moment. So redefining self-care. Everyone can see, I guess, my slides. Brittany, are we good?
Yes, we are. I can definitely see them.
Awesome. So I am sure many of you are meeting me for the first time. So just a quick introduction of who I am. As you know, my name is Homaira Kabir. And why am I giving this webinar? I have a master's in positive psychology and coaching psychology. I have 10 plus years of coaching experience. Postgraduate research on women's confidence, founder of the Goodbye Perfect project, which I would love to talk about perhaps at the end if anyone's interested. But what I really want to mention, which Brittany just did, was the Goodbye Perfect book that launches April 11th that I'm really excited about, that takes this work much, much deeper. And so this is who I am. Okay, so what is self-care? And for me, the definition that makes the most sense is one where we can take this word self-care, this compound word self-care, and break it down into each of its individual parts. So first, an understanding of what is the self. And for this, the general misconception that we have of the self is that we are, as a self, this physical body that we are, our physical selves, and that is where most of our focus tends to be. And yes, the body is a huge part of the self, naturally, but we're also emotions. We are the physical self. We're also emotions. We're also feelings. We're also beliefs. We're also our authentic expression, who we are, how we show up in the world. It is all the ways in which we do life on this planet. It is all the ways that we show up with our feelings, with our emotions, with this body, yes, with our unique expression, our ways of being, how we like to show up. What is it in you that makes you you? That is also part of yourself. So it is your body, it is your emotions, it is your, I call it authentic expression. Some people call it the soul. Some people call it the self with a capital S. Call it whatever you want. But the point still is that self includes all of these aspects. It is all the ways that we show up. So just taking care of one part of the self is obviously not meeting our full needs. Similarly, the word care. I mean, again, we think that care is, or we're told that care is, candles and creams and massages and all the rest of that, which it can well be if it is genuinely taking care of you. But what care really is what we know at a really deep intrinsic level. We know what self-care is when we enter this world. Even a little baby knows that self-care is when somebody can meet us in unconditional love and acceptance and with positive trust, positive regard and complete trust. If somebody can be there for us in complete love and trust our emotional and soulful needs, that is care. That is care. And a child who enters the world and who receives that is able to show up in the world in their full presence and go on to actualize themselves. And those that do not receive it play small in some way or the other, are not able to be who they're fully meant to be. So at the end of the day, self-care is really about being there for ourselves in unconditional love toward all these different aspects of ourselves and holding all of our needs and wants in the highest regard. Self-care is really, at the end of the day, tending and tilling the soil in which we can actualize fully. That is what self-care is. At the end of the day, really allowing yourself to be your most vital, your most alive in the world, and doing what you can toward that. So And when we're talking of self-actualization, I thought I'll drop this in a little bit because this is the work of Carl Rogers, who has, the most literature there. The body of work on self-actualization is by Carl Rogers. And he said that when we embrace the self fully, the self, our emotions, body, needs, soulful needs, everything, then our vision of who we want to be is aligned with that self. It's our ideal self is aligned with our true selves. And so the journey of growth, the journey of life is one where the two come closer and closer together. And that is what self-actualization is. We close that gap with joy, with ease, with excitement, with purpose. And when we're not able to do that, when we disown the self, when we dislike the self, when we are not connected with the self, when we don't even understand ourselves, then we're pursuing a should self that is based on external messages, that is based on external ideals, that is based on external demands, whatever it is. And that gap never closes. It is extremely difficult to actualize ourselves. And that journey is full of frustration, burnout, trying harder, not moving far, disillusionment, anxiety, etc., etc. So embracing yourself, your whole self, your authentic expression, what you feel, what you need, what you want emotionally, and this body, looking after it, is the way we grow into the fullest version of who we are. So it's a good time to do a little check-in, and maybe you may want to post your answers in the chat. How do you relate to yourself? How do you relate to the different aspects of yourself? How do you relate to your body? How do you relate to your emotions? How do you relate to your unique expression? So when you look at yourself in the mirror, do you have a loving relationship with yourself? Can you look at yourself? Can you look at your face? Can you look at your body with love and pride? Can you experience your emotions and hold a loving space for them? How do you relate to your emotions? How do you relate to your natural way of being? Supposing you're a kind person, do you think kindness is something that you value? Supposing you're a zestful person, is that something that you value? Can you hold it in high regard? How do you relate to yourself, to all these different aspects to yourself, to one, to more? But just think about it for a minute. When you look at yourself, when you think about yourself, when you think of the whole of yourself, what is your relationship with yourself? Yeah, so just take a minute to do that, and do keep posting in the chat. It really helps everyone get comfortable with their feelings and share them instead of feeling bad or ashamed of them. How do you feel? How do you relate? Do you have a loving relationship, or do you even understand yourself at all? Do you understand your emotions? What about your strengths? Do you love your strengths, or do you just not think about them? Do you use your strengths with joy? Move this chat box to the side. Yes, I can. Exactly, and a point that someone made in the chat, I cannot find it, but again, are you always trying to fix yourself, or do you have an accepting relationship with yourself? So, okay, so that is the one question. How do you relate to yourself? And the second question related to that is, how does that make you feel? So if you have a relationship where you're always trying to fix yourself, always trying to improve yourself, how does that make you feel? How do you go about it? Is it with joy? Is it with excitement? Or is it more of, trying harder, striving and feeling, Thank you, everyone, for sharing. Yeah, Marianne, it's a word. Some days you feel good and other days, do you know when you feel good and when the days are full of judgment? It's always good to build awareness around it and know what happens that makes the judgmental voice come. Okay, lovely. Thank you everyone for sharing. So this was just a quick check-in to see where you are around it. And the reason we do that is that given most of us don't have a very loving relationship with ourselves, and by loving, I mean really loving, like the way you look at your little child, like your newborn child, and you really love every finger and every toe without trying to fix everything so much. Because sometimes in our world, self-improvement just starts bordering on fixing. It is the outside world that tells us how we should look, and so we should be fixing ourselves. So unless you have that very loving relationship, and that loving, self-accepting relationship does not mean that we can't improve. It is the stepping stone. It is where we begin. It is where the journey of improvement begins, but that journey is full of joy and it is full of kindness. Carl Rogers, as he said, unless we accept ourselves, we cannot change, right? Lasting change begins with self-acceptance and with a lot of love. So it's good to always understand where this relationship comes from. And most of us have some idea, but still it is good to build an awareness around where it comes from, because underlying this relationship are certain beliefs. And unless we know those, and unless we know where it comes from, our implicit world, our beliefs will always keep driving the show. We may have the best intentions of wanting to be a certain way, but the implicit world always drives the show. And there are two major forces, influences on this implicit world, on these beliefs that we have deep down. And one of them is the homes that we grow up in. It is the attachment styles that we form from, our early years. And obviously we don't have time on the webinar to go deep into that. I go deep into that in the book, but I mean, these influences come from our homes, what was valued, what was rewarded, what was considered right, what was considered wrong, what kind of body was, considered good or, wanted, what emotions were allowed, what emotions were not allowed growing up, what kind of strengths were valued, what kind of strengths were considered weak, for example, or too much. Were you told, did you grow up feeling in some way or the other that you were wrong in some way, that you were too much of something, too little of something? So what were the beliefs that you formed growing up about your body, about your emotions, about your unique expression? So that is one major influence. And the other major influence is society. I mean, we live in a world that is patriarchal, and patriarchal again is a loaded term. So patriarchal in a way is just what it means toward life is a top-down approach. That top-down approach works for men. It is made by men. It works for men in our workplaces, in our societies. And a top-down approach is very prescriptive. This is how it should be. This is what your body should look like. This is what you should be eating. This is what emotions should look like. I mean, we classify emotions as positive and negative. That itself is so weird if you think about it. Emotions are messengers from our inner world. There is no positive or negative to it. They're just telling us what we really need emotionally. And that is what it is. It does not mean we necessarily act on those emotions, but they are reminding us of something really important to us. So again, we bring so much judgment around our bodies, around our emotions, around our unique expression. Certain expressions are considered, not powerful enough. Certain expressions are considered too weak, especially in workplaces. Women face such a double bind. How are they going to show up in a way that, some things are seen as too nice? Sometimes they're called too nice. Sometimes they're called too aggressive, right? So there's so much judgment on all aspects of ourselves that we take in. They start becoming part of who we are. The patriarchy, again, patriarchy meaning the judgment, the noise that we grow up with, eventually turns into and inner patriarchy. It is the voice in our own heads. It's when you look in the mirror, that's what you say to yourself. When you're doing your work and it doesn't go well, that is what you say to yourself. When you're struggling emotionally, that is what you say to yourself. That is the inner patriarchy. And so how do we manage that? And the first thing is recognize it. Where does it come from? Which is kind of what we just spoke about. Where does it come from? How and why does it show up? Once you know where it comes from, it is easy to create that distance. You already know where it comes from, so it is not your voice. It is the voice that you just heard growing up. There is no truth to it. You can separate yourself from it. There may be some truth to it, but it's not the whole truth by any stretch of the imagination, right? And when you can recognize that voice, then you can begin to create distance from it and start hearing your own voice. So this is really a two-pronged approach. First, you recognize it. Then the first prong is you distance yourself from it. So, and there are different ways of distancing yourself. You turn down the volume on it, you walk it out the door, you give it a name and you smile. Once you recognize it, you just say, okay, it's that voice again, da-da-da-da-da, turn down the volume. Use imagination, use creativity, bring a sense of fun and laughter to it. Walk it out the door, say, it's that voice again, come. I don't need you. Come, let's go out the door. Here's a ticket. Why don't you fly off to Hawaii or whatever you want to do, but really getting it out of your life, just recognizing that it's not needed, or give it a name, call it Aunt Fanny, call it whatever you want, and just smile at it and say, it's you. Okay, don't need to engage with you. And the reason I say it's important to distance it versus challenge it is that when we challenge something, we're basically simply strengthening those same neural pathways in the brain. We're strengthening the same neural pathways in the brain because challenging it rarely makes it go away. I mean, I'm sure many of you have tried challenging that voice that says, you're looking this way, or this is not good enough, or something, but that voice will just come back stronger. It is evolutionarily protective, so it is going to come back and fight back, right? So basically, the more you challenge it, the more you're strengthening those neural pathways. That doesn't work. You simply distance yourself from that voice so that those neural pathways lose their connections and eventually, in psychology, they say neurons that wire together, fire together. Well, when you don't engage with them, they basically lose their connections. And instead, you start doing the things that are about unconditional love and positive regard. It's like, sometimes a good analogy, a good thing that you can keep in mind, a vision that you can keep in mind is that if you walk a certain pathway, if you take the same path, walk the same path to wherever, to work every single day, that path, your footsteps kind of, those footsteps form on the path, right? And if you want, and for example, your footsteps from there, the grass stops growing there, and you can see your footsteps on the path, right? Well, you can't force that grass to grow back. But what you can do is just stop walking that path, start walking a new path, and the grass will grow back, right? So the best way to disengage from something is just distance yourself from it if it's not working for you. Distance yourself from it and start taking the new path that is nourishing, that is nurturing, that is truly taking care of yourself. And that is about shifting from your inner patriarch to your inner protector. Your inner protector is that presence inside of you that is going to do everything in her power to bring unconditional love and trust to this self, to your emotions, to your body, and to your authentic self, to love it, to own it, to really look at yourself in the mirror and be able to say, wow, I see beauty, I see brilliance here. And what am I going to do to bring it out into the world? That is your inner protector. And the work of the inner protector, I say here, giving life. I came up with this acronym as I was preparing the slides because I love acronyms. I think it makes work so much easier to remember. And the acronym LIFE, life, is you will see how we apply it to our body, our emotions, and our soulful expression. And that is what we're going to do in the rest of the presentation. So toward your body, Love your body intensely. That's the L and the I in the acronym LIFE. Love your body intensely. What are you going to do toward your body? How are you going to show that unconditional love and trust toward your body? Love it intensely. And why do I say love it intensely? I kept this little passage from the writer Toni Morrison, who's written about this, and she was talking about the body as an instrument of joy, sanity, self-love. And here is what she says, and I really wanted to read it out to you so that you really take in what loving our body means. Loving our body is the first step in being able to trust our body and taking care of our bodies. And this is what she says. She says, love your hands, love them, raise them up and kiss them, touch others with them, pat them together, stroke them on your face. Love your mouth. This is flesh, flesh that needs to be loved, feet that need to rest and to dance, backs that need support, shoulders that need arms, strong arms. Love your neck. Put a hand on it, grace it, stroke it, and hold it up. And all your inside parts that they'd just as soon slop for hogs, you got to love them. The dark, dark liver, love it, love it. And the beat and beating heart, love that too, more than eyes or feet, more than lungs that have yet to draw free air, more than your life-holding womb and your life-giving private parts. Love your heart, for this is the prize. Isn't that beautiful? Just look at the way we can relate to our bodies. So much love. I mean, again, I'm reminded of how we relate to our little newborns. In the same way, infatuation with each little finger, each little toe, just kissing it, loving it. And obviously, nobody's going to do that to us when we grow older, but we have to do it to ourselves. Unless we love our bodies in that way, we cannot take care of it, right? We cannot take care of it because we aren't attuned with it. So step one, because remember, there are two aspects to it. When we mentioned what care is, there's the unconditional love, and then there's the trust in it, trusting our needs and our wants. So step one is the love. And for that, I say, start living in your body. Most of the time, we aren't even living in our body. We just disconnected. Our body is just this vehicle that takes us from place to place. But ground yourself in your body. The more you ground yourself, the more you'll be able to understand what it wants. So yes, there's the pampering, there's the dressing, which is the loving that I was talking about. But there are other things. There are body scans that you do to ground yourself in your body. Body scans are like mindfulness practices where you walk your attention through your body. You can also dance. That's a lovely way of connecting to your body. And actually, I was listening to a webinar a couple of days ago on International Women's Day, and Billie Jean King, who was this tennis star, as most of you would know, she spoke about the importance of sports for women in particular to help us connect with our bodies, to help us trust our bodies, to help us to get to know our bodies. So do body-based sports, do body-based activities, learn to ground yourself in your body, feel your body. Love your body, dress your body, pamper your body, do all of those things, because that is step one to trusting what your body needs and then being able to honor it. All right? And then step two is meeting your needs, honoring your physical needs, honoring your physical needs. And that could be your physical needs for sleep, food, movement, rest, play. Think, instead of thinking what the outside world tells you, what you should be eating, what an ideal plate looks like, what an ideal serving looks like, think of what does my body need at this time? Does my body need rest? Does it need food? What food does it need? What am I, wanting right now? Learn to ask yourself these questions, because we've been so disconnected with our bodies that it takes time. Ask yourself these questions and wait for the answer. It may not come right away because we are so disconnected, but wait for it. Make it a practice where you start doing that, right? Even think about the days, even think about your best days. Think about, look over the past week, past couple of weeks, and think about a day when you felt your most vital, you're most alive, you're most energized. And think about what you did that day that made it so energized. Did you sleep better? Were you eating better? What were you eating? Did you take out time for rest, for play? What was it? Because that will point you to your number one need, and begin there. What is your number one physical need? And honor it and begin there, right? So as far as your body is concerned, love it intensely. I cannot emphasize that enough. Love it. It is the vehicle to your soul, unless you look after this body. I mean, Joseph Campbell said this. He said, we are both a bulb and a light. Our light is the work that we are here to do in the world. And the bulb is this body that is going to allow that light to shine, right? So look after your body, honor it, listen to it. So love your body intensely. So regarding your body, love it intensely, and then listen to its cues, follow its cues, honor its cues. As far as your emotions are concerned, feel your emotions. This is the F in the acronym LIFE, L-I-F, feel your emotions. And most times we don't even do that, right? We judge our emotions before we feel them. And so step one is tune into your emotion. And you know, there's this hard wiring that we have. We are hardwired to run away from anything painful. So especially if emotions are painful, we go into this frenzy. We either numb them, or we just start taking frenzied action so that we get rid of that emotional feeling. We're feeling uncertainty. You want to get rid of it. You're feeling overwhelmed. You want to get rid of it. Well, the first thing is you have to be with that. You have to name your emotion. Because the better you can name that emotion, the more you'll understand what it really needs. And so you'll be able to give that emotion what it needs in order to feel better, right? So the first step is tune into your emotion. And that requires a lot of compassion, because sometimes when we're struggling, sometimes when we're suffering, we need to be with our emotions. We need to bring a lot of kindness around it. We need to speak to the emotion in the language of emotions, and that is self-compassion. So when you recognize those feelings in your body where you're feeling uneasy, tight, small, hunched back, whatever it is, jaw tight, stress, tension in your head, however you feel your emotions, or if you're feeling joy, I mean, it could be any emotion. It could be an emotion that makes you small. It could be an emotion that lights you up. Whatever it is, name that emotion. Bring a lot of comfort around it, especially if it's an emotion that's making you feel bad. Say, I know, honey, this is painful. I know, honey, you're feeling overwhelmed right now, and it's okay. Just take a deep breath. We'll figure out what to do, right? Talk to yourself like that. I implore you, talk to yourself like that. You'll realize how different life becomes. Nothing is the end of the world. We start taking ourselves too seriously. Just bring that and say, yes, it's okay. Again, like you would do to your little child, right? I know, honey, you're feeling overwhelmed right now, and it's okay. I'm here. Validate that. Validate the emotion. It does not mean you will necessarily act on it, right? If you're feeling angry, it doesn't mean you'll necessarily go out lashing, spewing that anger on everybody else, but validate it. I know you're feeling angry. I know this is making you angry, and I'm here. It's okay. You have a reason to feel angry, right? That kind of language. And then step 2 is honoring your emotional needs. So once you know what your emotion is, then, by naming it, you're attuned to what it wants, then you can honor it, then you can give it what it needs. And what the research shows is that mostly these needs pertain to 3 areas of our lives: safety, satisfaction, connection. Safety, satisfaction, connection. We either want to feel safe, we either want to feel loved and connected, or we want to feel a sense of achievement, a sense of progress, a sense of making headway. And these are the same that Kristin Neff, who's done amazing work in the area of self-compassion, in her latest book, she calls them protect, provide, motivate. So for safety, you protect; for connection, you provide; for motivation, satisfaction, you motivate. So for example, let's make it real. You are experiencing overwhelm right now. If you're experiencing overwhelm, instead of just rushing around trying to do things, or, or just shutting down and feeling totally burnt out, You bring compassion around yourself. You recognize that emotion. You say, I know, I am feeling overwhelmed right now. I'm feeling overwhelmed because da, da, da. Stay there and just do not try to fix anything. Do not try to do anything. Just be with that emotion, recognize it, give it space, accept it. And then when you feel ready, then say, okay, what do I need to do now? What is the right thing to do right now? And it will fall into one of the three. If you're feeling overwhelmed, you'll most likely need to protect. You'll need to set boundaries. Perhaps you'll need to prioritize, let go of a lot of things, delegate a few things. This is protecting your space because there is too much coming at you, right? For example, if you're feeling self-doubt and a lot of self-doubt, first of all, you recognize it, you give it a name, then you say, okay, maybe most likely you need to motivate yourself. You need to say, hey, honey, we did this in the past. Remember, we faced a similar situation and this is what we did. Have what it takes. You have what it takes. This is what you can try, etc., etc. So again, the more you understand your emotions, the more you'll know what they're asking of you. It will fall into one of these three, which is protect, provide, or motivate. Or the other way of saying it is safety, satisfaction, connection. Okay, so feel your emotions, be there, name them so that you can honor your emotional needs and honor them in a way that is right. Okay, that was your emotions. And then the last one is express yourself authentically. This is the E in the acronym LIFE. And express yourself authentically, that is your authentic expression. Remember, we spoke about the self as being the body, the emotions, and your authentic expression. So this last one, express yourself authentically. How do you do that? Again, the two steps, one is unconditional love, the other is positive regard. So step one, own your power. Really, whatever your strengths are, whether your strengths are kindness, whether it is zest, whether it is joy, whether it is gratitude, whether it is assertiveness, whatever your strengths are, your qualities that make you you, own them completely without judging them. You have no idea how much of the work, especially the work that I do in workplaces, and when women find out that some of their strengths are kindness or empathy or gratitude, they just want to disown them. They just say, what good are these strengths in a workplace? I mean, they are your strengths. You've been given them, own them, because they are your sources of power. Using them allows you to be your best self in whatever you do. It is your healing, your healing to the world. It is what you've been given so that you can give back to the world. So own it completely. The dreams that you have, your aspirations, all of that is unique to you. Whatever originates from within you is unique to you. Own it completely. You've been gifted it. Own it. Take it so that you can express it. So step one, get to know yourself. Own your power. Our lives point us to what our strengths are. Our lives tell us everything that we need to do. So look at your past, look at your best moments in your life and ask yourself, how was I showing up? And you will see certain strengths and qualities that you can start owning and that you can start exhibiting and that you can start showing up with. Your sources of joy, for example, your creativity, your passions, what are they? Start expressing them. That is step two. That is honoring your soulful needs. Start expressing them. Start pursuing them. Start projecting with whatever your strengths are. Start pursuing your creative pursuits, whatever you want to do. Start pivoting as well. Because, when we talk about authenticity, we think that authentic expression is just this one way of being. Well, authenticity is relational by nature. We are a paradox. We have many, many authentic ways of being, especially as women. Think about it. We are that nurturing self, but we're also mama bear. We're also assertive, right? When we need to be. All of these are aspects of ourselves. We're each a paradox. We've got feminine qualities. We've got masculine qualities. We all have them. And so experiment with all these different aspects of you, pivot to the ones that are needed, start playing with your authentic expression, expressing it as much as is needed. Look at any situation and say, how am I being called to show up in this? What are my strengths that I can start using here, right? What are my sources of joy? How can I engage in them more fully? How can I give them expression? And the more you do that, the more you express yourself authentically, the more joyful you will feel, the more you'll be being more of who you really are, right? So again, let's take a moment to check in and ask, and I want you to ask yourself, what am I going to start doing? What am I going to stop doing? Where do I need to focus my attention right now? Is it in the way that I relate to my body? Is it in the way I relate to my emotions? Is it in the way I relate to my unique expression in the world, my authentic expression in the world? And so first you need to know that which of these three aspects of the self are you going to focus on? And once you know that, which way of caring do you need to do? Do you need to bring that unconditional love? Is that where your focus needs to be right now? Or is it about trusting it and giving and honoring it? So again, I would love for you to share that in the chat box again. What will you start doing? What will you stop doing? And how will you remember to do so? Will you start focusing on your body and loving your body and nurturing your body and honoring your body's needs? Will you start feeling your emotions, bringing non-judgment around your emotions, honoring your emotions? Or will you start owning your authentic power, getting to know your strengths, getting to express your passions, your creativity, your joy in the world? More attention to your body, Lisa, grace to slow down and put myself first, etc. Lisa, you bring up such a good point, right? But first, I really want all of you to pay attention to this. What will you start doing, stop doing? Because I really want you to walk away with actual tangible things that you're going to start doing toward your self-care, toward relating to all aspects of yourself with love, towards honoring all these aspects of yourself. I love what you've written, Susan, by not holding back while writing and with new friends, owning your authentic self. Yes. Do you know there's so much research around charisma, and charisma is really what draws people to us is when we're able to be authentic. That's what charisma is. It's a very buildable quality. Right. And I want to go back to one of what somebody had just said. Yeah, I think I lost that. But the point is that this work is very important work. I want all of you to understand that taking care of ourselves is very important work, not only for our actualization, but for us to be there for other people. Because if you look at this Maslow's hierarchy of needs, for example, the highest form of self-actualization is called self-transcendence, when we can move beyond ourselves and be there for other people. And if you think about it, as women especially, a lot of our lives is all around running around other people and fulfilling everybody else's needs. And I saw somebody mention that in the chat as well. Trying to take care of everybody and trying to do everything and keep the house fine and do the best at work and the rest of that. Well, the point is we cannot transcend ourselves if we don't even own ourselves. If we're not even fulfilling our needs, taking care of others is about transcending ourselves, genuine care about others, where we can help other people actualize, when we can help our children, our team, when we can help those around us be the best that they can be, begins by us doing that for ourselves, by us recognizing our needs, by us honoring our needs. So it is not small work by any stretch of the imagination. It allows us to grow into our full potential. Because, John Cacioppo, who's done all this research on belonging, he says in his TED Talk, he says the purpose of growing up is not to become independent. It is to become the one on whom others can depend. And for us to be there for other people, we have to be there for ourselves first, right? And that is not an end in itself. It allows us to be there for other people so that we can grow into the highest version of who we are. And Mary Oliver, the beloved poet Mary Oliver, writer Mary Oliver, says this so beautifully. She says, and what do I risk to tell you this, which is all I know? Love yourself, then forget it, then love the world. It is such a beautiful thing to end our webinar on. But before we open up for Q&A, and I think we're doing good on time, Brittany, before we open up for Q&A, do want to mention the book that Brittany just held up, Goodbye Perfect, How to Stop Pleasing, Proving, and Pushing for Others and Live for Yourself. It is now available for pre-order. It will be in stores on April 11th. That is so exciting, but it is available for pre-order. If any one of you wants to dive deep into this work, wants to dive deep into the work of letting go of all these behaviors that keep us stuck and small and miserable, and start living with joy, with ease, with purpose in your life, then please go ahead and pre-order the book now. Pre-orders are so essential in getting the book on people's radar. And we would all love to get this book on people's radar because perfection and all these behaviors are holding us back. They are keeping us small. And we have to do this work collectively. So the URL to go buy the book, and with pre-ordering, there are a ton of bonuses that I'm offering. So if you click maybe in the chat, I will try and add the URL. Brittany, I had the URL handy, so I'm adding it there. And if you go on that page, you can pre-order the book right now it's available at wherever books are sold. So you can go and pre-order on Amazon, Barnes & Noble, wherever you wish, and get all the pre-order bonuses that are available. And so, yeah, with that, I will open up for Q&A. And all of you who've registered have been entered into a draw by Brittany. And we are giving away 3 books. Sourcebooks is giving away 3 copies of the book. So fingers crossed, who knows, you may be one of the ones to get them.
Yes, we will be informing the winners early next week when to collect your information. And if you have any questions, if you'd like to verbally ask Homaira a question, just raise your hand and I will be able to allow you to talk directly to Homaira. All right. So far, it looks like there aren't any questions. I think you were so thorough. And everyone's just loving the chat and loving you in the chat here. Thank you all for dedicating this time to Goodbye Perfect and to Homaira and honoring your own needs for self-care. This has been such an enriching experience. I'm sitting here just learning so many new things about myself and ways in which I can love myself better. And I think that you all will thoroughly enjoy Goodbye Perfect, the book. It is a wonderful, wonderful book about how to honor yourself better. And we will be sending a copy of this video and this presentation to you via email early next week. So please keep a chat or keep a lookout in your inboxes for that. And we do have a anonymous question from an attendee for you, Homaira, about, do you have any suggestions on how to deal with regret?
Oh, thank you for asking. Yes, I do have a suggestion. And regret is an emotion, right? So if we link it to what we've been talking about in the webinar, first honor that emotion, be with it, bring lots of compassion around it, right? Allow yourself to feel the regret. And again, without judgment, compassion, self-compassion again, and then ask yourself, what is the regret pointing you to? What is it asking of you? So, because sometimes when we experience regret, we are no longer in a position to do something about it, right? So if we're feeling regret over something, sometimes we can take action and make repairs. If it is regret about the way we spoke to somebody, I mean, if you want to expand on that, then we can actually talk about your situation. And if not, then, sometimes we can take action, sometimes we can make repairs, and sometimes the regret, we can no longer do something about it. Maybe that person has moved away, maybe they're no longer present in our lives. And then what are you going to do about it? So, in that situation, what you do is you make amends. So you try in some other way to honor the regret and to honor what it is asking of you. Again, it would help if I had a little bit more information about your situation. Is it regret about a relationship? Is it regret about, unfulfilled soulful needs, things that you didn't do in your life that you would have liked to do? That would be very helpful. And then we can talk more about that. But other than that, general would be just simply honor that emotion, see what it's asking of you, and then see how you can honor it in the best way possible.
And we have another question from Alicia in the chat. If you find yourself resisting self-care, how can you combat that?
Again, Alicia, awesome question. When we spoke about where do these beliefs come from, so ask yourself, why am I resisting it? What part of it do I find hardest? And why is that so? Self-awareness is the best way to create distance from something and not get hooked by it, right? So resistance, when we're resisting something, we are kind of hooked there, right? We can't move beyond it. So build self-awareness and ask yourself, why the resistance? Where does it come from? How did that help me at the time when I had that? And why am I struggling with that? What is different about the situation now? And take small steps. Just one little thing, like, when we're experiencing resistance, the best way is to just take that one small step. How do I want to live my life? And what is one thing that I can do toward that today? Not a huge, big leap, not just changing completely the way you relate to yourself, but just one small thing that you can start doing.
Mm-hmm.
You can start, do I feel that I would fall behind in my work if I took it a little bit easier? Is that it? You have to see what are the messages that I've bought into so deeply that I need to create a little bit of distance from and start experimenting with small steps.
And it looks like we have a little bit more context for that suggestions for regret. It's revolving around not focusing on moving forward more in a career path.
Okay. So not moving forward more. So again, self-compassion literally means you recognize that emotion and you take a deep breath and you put your hands on your heart, do whatever you need to do and just say, it's okay, honey. Wherever I am is exactly where I'm supposed to be at this time. Right? Always remember that, all of you, all of us, it's good to remind ourselves of that from time to time. Wherever we are is exactly where we're supposed to be. That regret is pointing you towards something. So first accept it, take it in without judgment, and that is fine. You are exactly where you're supposed to be. And your regret is telling you that you did not take enough steps for moving forward. Well, what can you do now? Right? What can you do now? And start moving toward that. Create a plan toward that. Where do you want to be headed? What is the path that will take you there? And start moving in that direction. If not for the regret, you may never move in that direction. So, it is pointing you towards something.
And we have a question from Darnella. Are there any recommendations on how to identify my unique gifts? What about assessment tools?
Assessment tools are good. They are a good starting point. I think they're a good starting point for those of us who have no idea, but they give you some direction. But at the end of the day, you have to live life in a lab coat, I like to say. You have to look at your own life and see, okay, if this is what the assessment tool is telling me, where have I seen myself doing that in my life? Did it bring me a sense of joy when I was using those strengths? Did it bring me a sense of meaning when I was using those strengths? What were the other strengths that I was using in combination with that? What was the situation where I was using those? So yes, do the tests, but then see how they played out in your life and which situations you can use them in.
Yeah, that sounds lovely. If there are no more questions in the chat, we just want to thank you for joining us today to redefine self-care with Homaira Kabir, as she has noted. Goodbye Perfect is available for pre-order today. And it would be lovely, lovely, lovely for you all to join us again with pre-ordering this book and being part of the Goodbye Perfect community. Thank you again so much, and we hope you have a wonderful day.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you, Brittany. Thank you, everyone, for being here, and have a wonderful, wonderful day.
Okay. Have a good one.